Hello, everyone. The third week of the 31 Nights of Horror is officially in the books as myself, Mitchell Lee, and Tommy Grant. No Brandon 2 this week. He's got a Wednesday wedding to attend to. I don't know if he's given any thoughts regarding these movies or if that's a next week ordeal for him. But uh, we are going to be talking about 6 movies again this week. Most of them in the 2010s. We've got a few in the 2020s. We'll get to some of the older stuff as we get further along. Don't worry, we've got some sequels coming towards the end of this thing that I'm very much looking forward to. But we're gonna start things off with Barbarian, which Zach Kreger directed film from 2022, came out in September of 2022, and most people will know Zach Kreger now as the guy that made Weapons, which comes to HBO Max this week, which I'm excited for you to watch that, Tommy, and also I'm gonna show my fiance that movie as well. I gotta tell you, that's definitely a one to watch. But people were really excited for that movie because of what Zach Kreger did here with Barbarian, starring Georgina Campbell, Bill Skarsgård, and Justin Long. Really low budget movie, $4 million, made $45 million at the box office. I don't really remember seeing too much advertising for this movie. I didn't even really see trailers before other movies.
This was one of those movies that didn't have much advertising until after it came out and everybody was talking about it.
Everyone was talking about it, and the thing that I kept hearing, because I didn't see this until like 2 weeks after it came out, this was a movie that everyone had said go in knowing as little as you possibly can.
Yes.
And luckily for me, I think that I was able to go in knowing about as little as I possibly could, except for the fact that people were saying it's a good movie, go check it out. And I'll just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off with this one. For the first 2/3 of this movie, I loved it. I was so on board. I loved the premise. I loved the switch up in the second act.
Oh, we'll get to
that. But the third act of this movie, it just kind of felt like, well, we have no idea how to end this shit. Let's just have things happen. Yeah. And I've seen other people that felt that way, but I do think that it's a minority opinion. I thought that they had a great premise, a great setup with no real way to really finish it off, which I do not think was the issue with Weapons at all. They definitely finished that one in, again, we'll say very little, but not an issue there. So this isn't like a Zach Kreger thing where, we got to worry about the way he finishes movies going forward. I'm not worried about that. But the premise of this movie is that there are these two people, Georgina Campbell and Bill Skarsgård, who I did not know Bill Skarsgård. I didn't know anyone that was in this. I knew nothing about it going in. Yeah. Even the people that were in the movie. And it's this girl that finds out that the Airbnb that she's rented for this job interview is already being... There's a guy that's already staying there. And usually in that situation, you go like you're going to complain about it. You're going to go stay somewhere else because you're not going to stay in this house with someone that you never knew. A complete stranger to you, especially in her situation of being a young woman and this, a man being there that she doesn't know. But it's actually about the best case scenario as far as that situation could go. He's a normal dude, but the house has some creepy stuff going on in it. And then the second act of the movie just goes, cool. So everything that you just saw, we are going to pivot from that completely. You just saw it end with some fucked up stuff just out of nowhere. And now we're going to Justin Long, who the movie just flips in a way that I was so confused. Okay, let's just talk about it,
We'll
Tommy.
rip the band-aid off because I want to speak a little bit about Bill Skarsgård because obviously everybody kind of knows him as playing monster characters now between it and Nosferatu. You go into this movie kind of thinking that he's going to be the bad guy because that's just what
It's great
that's what
casting.
the audience knows. That's how they kind of play it with the score and the cinematography and how the conversation kind of goes back and forth. You're like, all right, this guy seems nice, but it's like there's definitely something sketchy about him. It's like that was a great way to start the movie, and then we get to that scene in the tunnels, and then just completely throws that little plot line out the window, and you're like, oh, he actually wasn't the bad guy. And then we go to Justin Long, and it's just completely different tone, completely different character. And it's almost like watching two separate movies with just the same main
It,
character
it
in it.
it basically is, to the
I don't
point
even know
where I
how
was
else to
like,
describe it, but it's just two completely different tone, cinematography, score, like dialogue, everything's completely different.
man, it really was like, did someone just start playing a different movie? It really felt like that to me, where I'm sitting in the theater and I'm like, did I blink? Like, did something happen? Did I just evaporate into another theater or something? What happened to the movie that I was watching? But I was able to roll with it in a way that I liked where it ended up. I thought that the whole Justin Long stuff was probably the most interesting stuff in the movie, if I'm being honest. I loved the stuff with him trying to measure it. Like there's a clearly something weird is going on in this like basement tunnel area, and
Yes.
he's like, "Oh hell yeah, this house may have some extra you know some extra measurements to it that I can profit off of because I don't think that this was listed. So
It,
I'm gonna measure this thing and see if I can make some money off of this
that was probably the
Airbnb that I
funniest
rent
scene of
out."
the whole movie. But the other thing that bothered me, it didn't bother me, but it just again, a completely different tone shift. They gave Justin Long's character way too much backstory for something that had no importance for the rest of the movie.
I didn't mind that personally.
it
I
wasn't it
I
wasn't a
liked
bad
it.
part, but it was just like the whole concept of him basically being an actor who had sexual assault stuff on him, accusations. It plays zero part into the rest of the movie. He could have just been some random dude who owned the property that showed up. They didn't need any of that backstory, but they spent like 15 minutes just going into what he's doing and why he's going to this, you know, home that he owns, which again just kind of takes away from the movie a little bit. But again, it's a completely different tonal shift. But I did not like it. It was just a very odd way to set up the second act of the movie.
I'll say that my thing is that it tries to set up almost like a redemption arc for him. I mean, they're not very subtle about it either, but I was kind of getting on board with it a little bit. And then they just completely, and I think a lot of people really like the fact that they kind of set that up only to just piss all over it.
Yeah,
They thought that that was almost like a comedic type thing, but I just didn't really quite get that vibe from the third act of the movie. I don't know. It felt to me like just random shit for the sake of random shit and just like almost shock value
yeah,
at the end of the movie as opposed to it being like the way the narrative should be playing out. And that's probably not the best way to watch movies. In a lot of movies, I don't. But with how innovative the first 2/3 of this thing were, I think I just had bigger expectations built up. Because it basically becomes like a monster movie, right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's just what it becomes. It becomes like a monster movie because this thing is a result of just decades of incest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very dark story. Um, but I just don't really think that. it went anywhere.
No, and the way they ended it too. I mean, I don't know if you want to spoil stuff because it's kind of a recent movie,
Yeah,
but
go for it.
I think the other shock, but also kind of comedic moment was when the homeless guy kind of brings him. They finally escape the house, and he brings him to his little hiding spot. And he's like, I've been hiding here for years. She's never been here. Blah blah blah. And all of a sudden, just boom through the walls and just
Yeah, yeah.
rips his arms off. Starts beating him with his arms. I'm like, just a complete 180. And that whole sequence just really took a left turn from the whole tone of the movie. And I kind of enjoyed it because I enjoyed, you had to get out of the house eventually, but I feel like moving the film from the creepy aspects of the tunnel to just going around the town, I feel like I kind of lost its horror aspect because a couple scenes in the second act, especially with Justin Long's character, with the matches and the what was he using, the phone cameras, some whatever light he had, light source, and just having that effect of seeing the creature running down the tunnel at him. That was much more
Hmm.
scary than just running up a water tower, which is obviously the end of the movie. The big moment where he pushes Tessa's character off the ledge to make the creature jump after, and somehow it didn't kill the creature.
Yeah, that was another thing where it just felt to me like the
It was like a
first
cheap jump
half.
scare.
Yes, it became more of a jump scare monster movie than it did the smart with a good sense of humor movie that I
Yeah,
felt like I had been watching. And I just, again, it just, I would rather a movie start poorly but end really well than start really well and end poorly, because the lasting image of this movie for me is just a third act that I didn't really get on board with.
yeah,
And it really sunk the grade for this thing to me. Um, I was still excited for Weapons, I think, because I wanted to see what he would be able to do with a bigger budget. The cast is a little bit more, you got some bigger names in there. And I really think that he was able to nail that tone a lot more than this one.
yeah,
There is a lot more of the, there's a comedic element to it, but I think it's blended in a lot better. I gave this thing, let's see, it's a B minus 96.17, but this thing for a while was like A in like the 60s.
okay.
So the ending of this thing really sunk it for me personally.
Especially going, because I had watched this before this showing. This was the second time I've seen this movie, and taking all the surprises out of the picture, it makes it much less interesting to watch. Especially when you get to that third act, because you see all the jump scares coming, which again happens to a lot of horror movies. It loses its value over time. But I gave it a B minus as well, like 10%. Because again,
All right,
second
yeah,
second watch
some
around, it loses its value. The first two acts are still very entertaining. I enjoy the conversations and the interactions between Justin Long and Bill Skarsgård with Tess, but just the third act just never really holds up.
well, let's move on to our next movie. That's going to be The Witch. This is another one where I feel like I got to yell at people. No, this is not a 2015 movie. This is a 2016 movie just because it came out at Sundance. It was released to the public in 2016. Therefore, it is a 2016 movie. Come on, people. But I remember this thing. It came out February 19th, 2016. And I don't think it came to, I was in college at the time at Appalachian State. I don't think it came to Boone. So I don't think I had the option to see it unless, like, I wasn't really going out of my way to drive to movies at that point in time. So I just didn't see it for another like 2-3 years after it came out. But this thing was getting so much hype, and it was kind of right after stuff like It Follows, and you had, because that had come out the year before, which we'll talk about here later. Um, you had a lot more of this independent, dark, atmospheric horror,
Yeah,
and this was the first. I don't know if it was the first feature film or if it was just the first. No, it is feature directorial debut of Robert Eggers, who has since become one of my favorite directors. We'll talk about one of his movies, The Lighthouse, next week. Um, but The Northman and Nosferatu are two movies of his that came out this decade, and those are both easy A+ movies for me.
The
I
Northman
mean,
is the one I still have yet to see for him, and the Lighthouse.
The Northman. I'm not gonna lie to you, the Northman gave Top Gun Maverick a true run for its money as far as my favorite movie of 2022.
That's high.
To the
That's high.
point where, I'm not 100% sure I made the right decision. I could go either way with that, just depending on the mood. I think that that's his masterpiece. But any of these movies, someone could say that's my favorite Robert Eggers movie, including his first film, The Witch or The Vivitch, depending on what poster you're looking at. This thing stars Anya Taylor-Joy. This was a big deal for her.
Oh yeah.
Split would come out the next year, and more people, more general audiences would get to know her.
This wasn't her
This
debut
was a big
movie,
star
was it?
making. I don't think it was her debut movie, but it was like her breakout. No, this wasn't her debut. Actually, it was her debut movie as far as credited roles go. She
Okay.
wasn't credited for her role in Vampire Academy, and probably for the best. But yeah, then she'd have Split the next year, and then into the 2020s, people know her for stuff like she's in The Northman, The Menu,
Yep.
Furiosa. I mean, she's great in that. Last Night in Soho. She really is one of the better actresses that we have here. Ralph Ineson's in this, who some people might recognize as the voice of Galactus from the Fantastic Four movie. And Ralph Ineson has a really powerful, booming voice.
He does.
That really adds, like, between that and just how big he is, it really adds a sense of intensity to his character that I really enjoyed here. $4 million budget, made $40 million. This was considered to be one of the best horror movies of the decade. And I will say that for the first 2 acts of this movie, and I don't want this to become a running theme, I promise it's not. The first 2 acts of this movie, I was like, am I going to give this thing an A+? Like, it's skirting with that. I was really digging the atmosphere and the tone of this thing in a way that Robert Eggers is really good at. I think that his best movie as far as that goes is probably still Nosferatu. I think that he does a great job of just putting you in those times, and with the snow falling down, and I just think that the like gothic look to everything, he's a masterful director in that regard.
He
And
truly
some
does
people
enjoy the gothic kind of style of cinematography, which, like,
you need
this
to
is
see The
one of the
Northman, man. You will eat it. It's definitely his most action
funny,
heavy
like,
of his movies.
going back 10 years ago when this first came out, like, this was not my style of movie. Like, it was very slow, very drawn out. I've now obviously matured and enjoy watching more cinematography type movies. So watching this for the second time, I really, really enjoyed it. Whereas I know the first time I was like, this is just really boring and long. And you definitely feel that kind of drawn out, but to the effect that he really makes you feel isolated and just kind of emotionally exhausted, like this family is feeling this entire film. He really does a good job at that.
Well, his movies have gotten longer as he's
Yes.
gotten bigger budgets, and he's
Yes.
kind of gotten more of a fan base, because the Nosferatu and The Northman, both over 2 hours long. The Lighthouse is a little bit longer than this. This is an hour 32, and I thought this was an incredibly brisk 92 minutes for me personally, at least.
Yeah.
My
Watching it felt much quicker, but younger Tommy was like, "This is boring."
I think I might have had a very similar experience, because I liked this movie more the second time around, but for very different reasons. And I still loved this movie the first time around, but I think the way it concluded was the highlight to me the first time. And then this time, I liked the first 2 acts more, and the conclusion was just kind of like, all right, this just kind of feels like we're suddenly just getting to something to end the movie.
Yeah, I
And
could see
I didn't know if I quite like the whole Black Phillip thing. Um,
it was
I
an
just
interesting take on the devil, which I know like black goats have been used historically as a reference to the devil. Like it's especially in kind of I guess early American century, which is where this is kind of this is taking place in like 1600s, I believe, right?
I mean, yeah, this is in like Puritan times. This is
Yeah, 1630.
1630s New England.
Yeah, so like it
So
makes sense.
17th
Like
century.
black goats would have been used as kind of a reference to the devil back then. So that was kind of a good play on that. But the connection with the witch I thought was kind of creepy. That was probably the best part in terms of the horror aspect for me, and just having this witch character kind of almost like Hansel and Gretel. Like they find her in the middle of the woods in this sketchy cabin, and then she starts slowly
It's
influencing.
very Hansel and Gretel, which if I told you that Robert Eggers' first short film was Hansel and Gretel in 2007 that he worked on,
The
would
figure.
you really be surprised?
No, not at
It
all.
it, it definitely it definitely felt like that to me. Um, the thing that I liked the most, and again, this is just me not being like 23 watching this movie anymore, is I just liked the family dynamic. And
Yes.
I think the dad was my favorite character in the whole movie because you could just tell that they were banished from this settlement for whatever reason. Wikipedia says a religious dispute. I don't think it's ever really laid out quite that simply in this movie because you're just kind of thrown in the middle of it. But for whatever reason, they're gone. That's all you need to know.
Yep.
And these people, I mean, this is again 1630s New England, just over the Mayflower type stuff. Things are very, very new and they are completely on their own. And you sense that desperation and sadness with, they lost a child uh, due to apparently a witch, which it eventually is revealed that, yes, that is what happened.
Hmm.
Um, you sense the desperation and it creates tension within the family so that when things start happening, people are just very tense, very on edge, and you can it tightens like a guitar string, and just at some point it's gonna snap, and it's gonna be very very nasty for everyone involved. And I think that the point where it snapped, like it didn't snap in a way that I thought fit the tone of the rest of the movie, but I think that was kind of the point that it did just kind of come out of left field. Um, I don't know. Maybe it didn't come so much out of left field. I think the tone of it and just it is kind of a sudden conclusion too. We've had a lot of those movies lately where it just things start happening and then it's just done. Now it's not the devil inside. It does actually conclude. I just would have liked to have maybe seen 10 more minutes of what might
Yeah,
have happened after this.
it
But
was just a very long, drawn out build up. Again, I say long, even though it was only an hour and a half. But the first two acts, it was just very drawn out, and then you have, I think, the pivotal scene was when the eldest son was having that moment when he's in the bed, like dying, and the whole family
yes,
basically turning on each other. That was like the
that is
pivotal
when I
scene. That
think the
was like,
movie peaked for me.
yes, because
That
that's where
kid,
the
Harvey
family dynamic
Scrimshaw,
really fell apart.
Harvey Scrimshaw. I don't think I've seen him in anything since, and I haven't. He's only been in like 3 movies, but good job, Mr. Scrimshaw. You killed it in this role.
Yes.
I thought that he was great. And yeah, I think that that's the point where you have, because at that point, family members start dropping. And I think that the movie's at the best when it is the family together freaking out
Yeah.
as opposed to it just being Anya Taylor Joy. Um, because Black Phillip just starts killing people, and
It was a very odd sequence of events because the parents are just so blinded by their religion that they're not thinking clearly, and obviously now you're having the grief of a
especially
second
mom.
child being basically killed. They don't know who it is, so they just go to religion, they blame it on the devil, they blame the daughter, and you have it was very weird, the sequence where the twins were having kind of their meltdown and just like start doing like this chant. It makes you wonder, like, are they just going through the hysteria of it and just making stuff up, or are they actually being possessed? And it kind of plays
I
on you a little
liked
bit in that scene where you don't really know
I
what's
really
happening.
liked the dynamic between uh the Ralph Ineson and Anya Taylor-Joy, because the whole movie it feels like the mom and the daughter are very antagonistic,
Yes.
especially the mom towards the daughter. The mom just kind of seems antagonistic towards basically everyone, but the relationship between Ralph Ineson and Anya Taylor-Joy, where he is very defensive of her, but also at the same time he's like, look, we gotta give you to somebody that can
We're gonna sell
like
you off because we don't have money.
exactly, yeah. And you could tell that he's very conflicted about it, but at the same time he's like, this is what needs to happen for the family, and she feels betrayed by it, and
Mhm.
it I think it just makes for tension that was very enjoyable to watch. Robert
Yeah.
Eggers did a great job of setting that all up and delivering on it in a way that, yeah, the third act wasn't necessarily my favorite, but it wasn't bad by any means, and it's still a movie that I really enjoy, and I'm glad that I enjoyed it in a different way than I did the first one, and I'm glad that this did, or the first time I watched it, and I'm glad that this was a springboard for Robert Eggers, who has since become a director that if he has a movie coming out, it's in my top 10 most anticipated of the year.
Yep.
Um I mean, you've seen The Witch and you've seen Nosferatu, right?
Hmm.
Or have you also seen Lighthouse?
No, I'll be watching that tomorrow.
Ooh, okay. So that's coming up real soon for you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one I'll be watching this weekend. So
That's one
we'll
I've
be
been
talking
wanting to
about
watch for a long time because I love Willem Dafoe. I love Robert Pattinson. The two of them being in the same movie together, it's just I haven't had the time to sit down and watch that long of a movie because I know that's a movie I'm gonna have to like pay attention to because like
I
of the
don't even know
detail.
if you can classify that as a horror movie.
It's more of a
I'm going to be
psychological
honest with
thriller.
you. I just with The Witch on the list, I've been meaning to rewatch this again for quite some time because when I watched The Lighthouse, I didn't like it when I saw it in theaters.
Okay.
And I feel like that's one that's been screaming at me to rewatch it for years now. So I think that it is definitely time to do so. But as far as The Witch goes, I give this thing an A, 25.24%. Out of the three Robert Eggers movies that I have rated, it's the only one that's not an A plus. So it is the one that I liked the least, but I still definitely recommend it.
I give it an A minus 95. It's
Okay,
a
so we've been pretty close on these.
yeah.
All right. Next up, a movie with a sequel in theaters right now. That being The Black Phone. This again, I got to do it again. This is not a 2021 movie. This is a 2022 movie. It showed at a film festival in the fall of 2021, but it came out in theaters on June of 2022. Tommy, what movie also came out that day that beat Black Phone at the box office?
June.
June
I
24th, 2022.
I Top Gun? No.
No, that came out about a month beforehand.
Okay. Yeah, I got no idea. My movies are
Elvis.
not Elvis. I haven't seen that one either.
Okay, that yeah, you got to watch that one. You watch that one, and you go, okay, I get why everyone's trying to put Austin Butler in movies. Yeah, that that'll get you. Yeah, um, but Black Phone again. This thing, it was filmed. A lot of it was filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina. So right here in
Oh, very
Brandon
nice.
and I state. I think that Blumhouse might do some stuff in North Carolina. I don't know. But directed by Scott Derrickson, who did Sinister, which is a movie we'll probably be talking about at some point in the next few years on one
Yep.
of these, as well as Doctor Strange, Deliver Me from Evil, or Deliver Us from Evil, rather. Black Phone 2, which I will be seeing this weekend. And he also did a movie we talked about last year, that being The Exorcism of Emily Rose,
Yep.
which we weren't terribly big fans of, but this is a very different type of movie.
Yes.
Also, with one of his writing partners, C. Robert Cargill, who I used to listen to. Now it's more Double Toasted, although he's not involved with that, but he used to be on Spill doing reviews with Corey Coleman and Martin Thomas. So it's always interesting when someone that's involved in like the film criticism podcast game is involved with making movies. It's always just cool to me. This stars Ethan Hawke as the grabber. Mason Thames, who is he's Hiccup in the live action How to Train Your Dragon, um, which is strange because
I'll be honest, I did not recognize
three.
him at all.
I don't blame you, because this movie was filmed in 2021, and How to Train Your Dragon, like 3 years late. Like, I thought it might even be a bigger difference. 3 years later, and that kid went from being like 13 to 16, and you look drastically different
Yeah.
in that time. So it also stars Madeline McGraw, Jeremy Davies, and James Ransone. Um, and this is one that, $17 million budget, $161 million. So you can clearly tell why there was a sequel, even though the movie concludes the way that it does. And this is a movie about it in the late 70s. There's a serial child killer, child abductor, known as the Grabber, and he goes around kidnapping and killing kids. And this kid Finney is the latest one to be uh, caught in the grasp of the Grabber. And in this basement area where he's being kept, there's a black, an old like rotary phone that uh, just kind of starts ringing at times, and he'll hear the voices of uh, the ghosts of kids that didn't make it out of the clutches of the Grabber, and basically giving him the how to's onto how to make it out of this thing. And I think that is an excellent concept for a movie. And I really liked this movie. I wanted to love it. And I think I got close, but there was just, again, it's an hour 43, so it's concise, but it's not as quick as some of the other movies that we've talked about that have been hour
Yeah.
25, hour 30. Um, I think that this movie, when it's focused on Finney and the Grabber, that's when I'm the most interested in it. There are some side characters. I didn't mind Gwen. I mean, she's got like these visions that she has, and I don't know if the movie necessarily needed all of that, but I understood it. But then
Yeah.
there's characters like, I think like the cousin or something of the Grabber, and I just didn't need that character at all.
He was the Charlie Day character of, hey, let's check out my conspiracy map of what's going on in my fucking basement.
Yeah. Yeah,
There,
I,
there,
I didn't
there
really
were,
need that vibe too much.
no, he didn't really play his part as well as he probably could have. But there was a couple plot holes in this movie, or not really plot holes, but just plot devices that I feel like they didn't explain as to why it existed. One of them being what you mentioned with the sister having basically premonitions and dreams of things that are happening, and apparently the mom had a similar issue, but was more had mental disorder, and it made it sound like she killed herself, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I can't remember the details of it, but I feel like it was kind of an odd thing to throw that in there, but not explain it more in terms of its significance. And part of me, I don't know if it'll play out in the sequel, but I feel like the mom's probably the same age range as the grabber, and maybe the mom knew the grabber at some point in her life. Maybe there was something connected there. But the grabber also, I feel like they didn't really give much backstory into him as to why he is the way he is, because he was definitely showing signs of maybe childhood trauma, maybe because the whole concept of him playing a game with kids that are being naughty.
Hmm.
I don't. I feel like they just didn't give much backstory to him as a villain, and it just kind of felt flat to me in terms of his character. It was just like, all right, he's just into kidnapping kids and torturing them in his basement by just making them fuck up out of desperation, and then he attacks them. And Finney was the first kid who just never really did that, and that's why he was like, "I like you."
Yeah.
But they just, I
I
don't know.
liked again, this movie I think peaks with the dynamic between those two. I think that they play off each other in this movie really well. Mason Thames has been in a bunch of, I mean, he's in How to Train Your Dragon. He's in the sequel to this. He's got another movie coming out right now that looks fucking terrible. But he's getting a lot of roles because he was so good in this movie, and him and Ethan Hawke had a really good chemistry together. Ethan
Yeah,
Hawke is scary in this movie, but scary in a way that I think makes sense given the character that he has to play, right?
yeah,
He's playing it up a lot, but also at the same time, you can tell that this is a terrifying person rather than just like a being that can't be killed type thing. Because
yeah,
a lot of times in horror movies, they'll go the route of like they'll make the main bad guy like almost like an unkillable force of nature, and maybe that's the route that they go in the second movie. I'm hearing that that's more of like a Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors type vibe.
okay,
I haven't seen it. I can't comment on it. I've also heard it's not as good as this, which doesn't really surprise me, given how Blumhouse movies have been ever really since the Black Phone and the first Megan movie. They've been pretty terrible. Um, but again, this is one that I liked. I've never really felt an urge to go back and rewatch it a ton, even though it is a quick movie to watch. I think it moves at a pretty good pace. Um, I'm surprised I liked it as much as I did in the theaters, considering this was one of the worst theater going experiences I'd ever had. Um, I sat next to about a family of 13. It seemed ranging from the ages of grandma to like 5 year old. Again, 5 year old at this movie probably not the best. I mean, over half of the family was like under the age of 15, so shouldn't have been there. And I
yeah,
swear, each and every one of them, from grandma to the 5 year old, on their phone the whole movie. Um, so I switched seats. I just got up and left and found another place to sit because at a point I just was like, if it was just one of you, I'd probably yell or something, but I'm not going to yell at a family of 15 that could clearly outnumber me. Um, so,
but there's
uh,
there's theater etiquette, people. Don't have your damn phone out. If you want to have your phone out, watch the movie at home.
and I'll be honest. You hear a ton of horror stories about going to the theaters these days. As someone that goes to the theaters a whole hell of a lot, I haven't really run into in the last like year or two that many instances of it. People, for the most part, at least in my experience, know how to act in public. Maybe I've just gotten really lucky, but this was horror movies are the ones that it could like the worst incidences tend to happen in horror
Yeah,
movies. I don't know why. It just is what it is. But yeah, I give this an A minus 49.34, which is probably about the high end of what something like this could have ended up as.
yeah, I'm definitely on the lower end. I gave this one a B 40. It just
Oh wow, okay.
it was it was a fun movie. I'll give it that. But in terms of story plot, it didn't have enough depth to me that just kind of made it a little less than I thought it was going to be, which isn't terrible, but obviously it was good enough that it got a sequel. So kudos to that one.
Yeah, but I mean, we're getting a Five Nights at Freddy's sequel this year too from Blumhouse, and that
Ugh.
movie's fucking horrible.
Yeah, I won't be
So
watching that.
it's just a money issue. All right, next up we've got the 2019 movie Ready or Not, directed by the duo known as Radio Silence. Um, yeah, that's just what
That's what
they go by, which I'm fine with that. They've also made they made Abigail, they made Scream
I love
6 and
Abigail. That
Scream
was a fun
7.
one. Okay.
Abigail was a really fun movie, and I also enjoyed Scream 7. Uh, Scream 6, not as much. This came out August 21st, 2019, made $57 million on a $6 million budget. We're actually getting a sequel for this movie next April. April 2026, Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. Uh,
No.
so, yeah.
This, this,
And that one's going to Yeah, it
this
should have
didn't
just been
need,
Ready or Not, Here I Come. You don't need the two.
yeah, but still,
Yeah, it's.
this didn't need a sequel.
I
I'm
don't think it
assuming
needed a sequel,
I'm
but
assuming it's gonna be with a whole different cast because obviously,
Samara Weaving's still going to be in it, and it's directed by the same people. So you know what? I have some hope. It's also got Catherine Newton, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Elijah Wood's going to be in it. So
all right.
I have I have
All right, you sold
reasons.
me on the cast, but I'm sorry, but how do you make a sequel? Is she gonna marry someone else who's doing the same fucking
I
thing?
don't I don't know. I don't
I'm
I
very
don't
interested
know.
to see
But
what
you
the
know
fuck
what?
this movie's
I'm
gonna
here
be.
for it. This movie stars Samara Weaving, Adam Brody, Mark O'Brien, Andy McDowell, and this movie is about a girl on her wedding day, and she's getting married to her husband, who's in a very rich family, and they made their money off of games, board game, whatever the case may be, just
Yeah,
the games. And as part of this wedding tradition, she has to pick a game to play, pretty much just like she like puts something into like a machine and it spits out what game they're going to play, and she has to play that game as part of like the official christening into the family. And unfortunately for her, the game that it spits out is hide and seek. And if it spits out any other game, then it's just like, hey, you played chess or you played the old maid or whatever the hell that guy said.
yeah,
I
yeah.
thought
This
that,
old maid. Yeah,
yeah, I don't know what that is. And neither did the guy in the movie. Um, then you just play that game. But if it's hide and seek, then sorry, we got to offer you up as a sacrifice. And it doesn't matter what we thought about you moving or coming into the day. This is just how it's got to go down. And it happens about once a generation, maybe once every other generation. It's rare, but it does happen from time to time. And so now Samara Weaving's got to survive against this family. And I love this movie. I
I
remember really liking this movie when
I
it
might
came
say,
out, but
aside from The Witch, I think this might be my favorite movie of this week in terms of just entertainment.
oh, this is my favorite movie of this week. I can say that with my whole chest. This is my favorite movie of the week. Um, I think the premise is brilliant. That
Yeah,
is a
know
great
who you are
idea for a
marrying and
movie.
what family you were marrying into. Key lesson,
I
people.
just, but I also like the fact that they aren't just okay, cool, we got to go kill her. There are people, older people in the family that recognize kind of what the deal is, that are more, I don't want to say gung ho about killing her, although that might not be the wrong word to use. Some of them are pretty excited, but others that are like, what, I got to use this damn crossbow now? I have no idea how to use these weapons. Like, can I have something from this century? It's got a good sense of humor to it, but
Yes.
it never loses its sense of intensity. The thing that keeps this movie from being even higher for me is probably the actual game of hide and seek, if I'm being honest. It's good, but I never really felt like I felt like she was in danger, but I felt like the actual game of hide and seek wasn't quite as clear cut as if we find you, we will kill you. There was a lot of talking, and I don't know, but I enjoyed that part of it mostly because Samara Weaving is incredible in this movie.
Yes.
I think she's great, and this was the first thing I had ever seen her in. It just immediately like I need to see you in more shit.
It was finally a horror movie where the damsel in distress character actually is competent and a badass and just
But
does.
not too competent.
No, I mean
Because sometimes they'll make
she's a trial by error,
the
but
lead. Sometimes they'll make the lead woman in this movie, and she just makes all of the correct decisions all the time, and it alleviates any tension. This had the right amount of like smart decisions to bad decisions.
yeah. But it was also one of those things where a lot of characters you'll see just kind of drop to the floor screaming, crying, like, don't kill me, don't kill me. No, she fought back. And like even to the point where she's out of the house and gets to that like barn and she's got the the nephew shoots her through the hand. And just that scene where she has to climb back up and like the nail sticks through her hand while she's climbing up, like to pull herself up.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously insanely painful, but she like fought through the pain because she wanted to survive. I feel like so many other horror movies, you just had the character just sit there and cry because their hand was hurt, and then they would die.
Yeah,
But
I
at the
liked
same time, she makes those decisions where she starts in the dumbwaiter, and I'm like,
oh
just
yeah,
she could have just stayed in the dumbwaiter the whole movie because they never checked that shit. She probably could have stayed there and lasted the night.
mm-hmm.
That's my theory.
I do think that the stuff that interested me the most was the dynamic in the family, because it was this whole thing of like who can step up and make the hard decisions, because we know that we have to do this sacrifice or else we're all going to die as a result. And you are watching the whole movie going, is this bullshit? Is this something that can actually happen?
Yep.
Or is this a real thing? And none of them had ever seen that before, because the one time that most of them, or at least some of them, had to do it, they did it.
Yeah.
I mean, there
It was
was
what,
a guy back in the day, like 30, 40 years ago.
husband,
Yeah, it was the aunt's husband.
super intense aunt that was like, no, we gotta stick to tradition. We're doing this shit.
Oh yeah, she was like
Super intense.
she was super intense to a degree that I felt like might have taken away from the movie just a little bit, but nothing crazy.
It was a little too extreme,
Um,
but I feel like it was also because her character was the only one who had to go through this before, and it's one of those like, if I had to do this to my husband, we got to do it to his wife. Like, I had to suffer through this. Everyone else has to suffer through this. I'm not going to be the only one that had to deal with this and not have it repeat.
and at the forefront of a lot of this, you've got Alex, who is Grace's husband, and he's conflicted about whether or not, to go through with this or not. I love my wife, obviously, but if I don't do this, potentially my whole family might die.
Yeah.
Is that something that I would be willing to risk? And Adam Brody is great here.
Yeah.
I think that his character adds a lot of levity to the film, a lot of moral conflict to the movie, in contrast with Alex. One of the things that I've heard people complain about when it comes to this movie is the fact that characters will switch on a dime.
I,
And I think that in this
I will make that
situation,
complaint.
I didn't mind it quite as much, because I think that particularly with the character of Alex, once it really got down to it at the end and things were like, we're down to like minutes now,
Yeah.
and you suddenly start to think my whole family might die if I don't do this. I understand that like the ticking time thing really weighing on you and forcing you to switch things up as to before, where it's like, no, I'm not going to be a part of killing my wife. Why the fuck would I do that? Whereas now people are really freaking out, and this seems like a real thing that could happen. I understand the motivation for him going, I think I have to do this, plus all the pressure being put on by his family to kind of take the lead where his brother was reluctant to do so. I got that. I understood that. And it makes for an even more satisfying conclusion,
Oh yes.
which wasn't necessarily the most surprising. I thought it would be hilarious if nothing happened, but
Well,
I
let's
also,
talk. Let's talk about
given,
the ending. Let's just rip off the band-aid here because
yeah,
it had the most absurd ending in horror movies. I anticipated something similar to this happening, but you have the brother who basically the whole time he's just drunk, doesn't want to do the game. And this is where I had the complaint with the character switching because I liked how he kind of played both sides a little bit, but he was always sort of supporting the wife because he wanted her to kind of make it. And then you have Brody's character who's basically conflicted but just trying to avoid this situation the whole movie. But he never seems like he wants to be part of it. He's just like, I'm just stuck here now, so I'm just gonna kind of try and keep you alive the entire night. But then all of a sudden he just like that on a dime just turns at the very last second. And it's not like it was a reluctant like, I guess I have to kill you. It's like, no, I'm all happy about this. I'm all gung ho. We're gonna kill you now. That part I didn't like because it didn't fit his character.
I
That being
understand that. I don't know
that
if I
being
quite
said,
agree. I didn't think he was quite that excited about it, but
he was so confident. He's like, no, we're gonna just betray you now, and you're gonna die. Like it was no like, sorry, honey, we
see,
have to do this. I don't want my family to die. It was just like, nah, you're gonna die.
I viewed it more as detachment, like where he was like, if I just kind of detach myself from the situation and I don't get overly emotional into it, it'll be over, it'll be done, and I can handle the rest of it when it's done. But
But also,
then
by the
it,
time we
it
got
does
to this point,
conclude.
though, he's granted he doesn't want his whole family to die, but half the family's dead at this point because between her and the crazy freaking cousin who's just shooting everybody because she's so high.
Yeah. Well,
It's
she's
like there's
killed
not
like
many
half
people
the
left.
damn maids.
Yes, she had a
It's like
higher kill count than
put
the
down the
devil did at the
crack,
end.
ma'am.
Like she honestly, she was one of my favorite characters in the movie. It was just so unhinged of a character. It was hysterical.
Yeah, no, I thought that her character was quite funny as well. Um, and then you get to the end of the movie where they're not able to complete the sacrifice before
Hmm.
sunrise, and they all just fucking explode.
Well,
And
here's the
she's
thing. Like,
just sitting there laughing the whole time as it
uh,
happens.
yes, her acting in this film was great. But like before we even get to this part, like she gives the most raw, just angry, animalistic scream,
Yes,
and I
it's
loved it.
perfect
I'm
for
all
something
here
like
for it.
this. Yes.
Like it wasn't the
There was
typical,
never a moment where I doubted like it she's great in this thing.
yeah,
And yeah, her
kudos
it
to her.
comes from a very like intense natural place,
Yeah,
you know? Like you can't look at her and go, I think you might be overcooking it or you might be phoning it in. I just thought it was brilliant. And yeah, it fits the horror genre so incredibly well.
yes. And then to have her kind of switch and just go into that hysterical laugh at the end. And I'll be honest, the explosions caught me off guard because I truly thought we were going to go, with the whole fireplace being there. I thought it was going to be one of those they're just going to catch fire or they're going to get sucked into the fireplace or something similar to like Drag Me to Hell type vibes. But then they just start exploding and I honestly couldn't stop laughing because it was just the most absurd thing and it was very entertaining to watch. Just all of them freaking out.
Man, you mentioned Drag Me to Hell, and again, that was one of the better movies I thought we
Yeah,
watched last year, where the ending of that thing caught me so off guard
yeah,
in a way that I thoroughly enjoyed. It was just delightfully fucked up.
and
And
that's
this is
Why
it's
related it
similar
to
but
this?
very, very different.
Yeah.
It didn't catch me anywhere near as off guard as Drag Me to Hell because I really thought that the movie was just done and over. And it's like, oh, yeah, we are done and over, but we have 5 seconds of just fucked up shit to get to first. So
We
I
got to
can't go
stick to the
quite
title of the
as
movie.
hey man, you can't say that it was deceptive advertising. I'm gonna give this thing an A, 50.64%.
Ooh,
Really enjoyed it, had a great time.
I was actually an A 45, so we're kind of around the same money there.
Right in the same ballpark. I wonder if we're gonna be in the same for this one. All right, so let's go to It
I'm
Follows
gonna
then.
predict that we're not.
Again, this is not a 2014 movie, people. This is a 2015 movie. This came out March 13th, 2015. And this, again, one of the big, if not the biggest, of that independent, really atmospheric, low budget, really selling
Very
the
low
the
budget.
vibes. Yeah, $1.3 million, made $23 million. This was directed by David Robert Mitchell and stars Maka Monroe, uh, Care Gilchrist, Daniel Zavato, and this is basically a movie about uh, an STD
Yes.
personified. Right? I had sex with you. I gave you this thing, and so now it is going to come after you. It's never going to run at you. It's just going to walk at you, and it can look like anybody, but you got to be on the lookout. And if it kills you, it's going to just keep on moving down the list. So you got to maybe go and give it to someone else. And I have heard a lot of great things about this movie. I saw it about a year after it came out, and I thought it was okay. I wasn't crazy about it. And so I watched it again, and my opinion hasn't changed even a little bit. I think this is an incredibly overrated movie. I I just
Maybe we
think
are
that
on the
so
same
much
page
of
with this one. I truly did not like this movie at all.
okay, I don't know if I can go quite that far because I think that the first third, the setup for it is good. I think that most of the stuff with her and the other guy is good.
Yeah.
Um, but so much of this movie is just like we're trying to set up like we've got like the 70s and 80s music going on, and we're just trying to be incredibly atmospheric, but not in a way that really got me like tense. I thought that her friends were just, I hated every single one of them. I did not like seeing those characters involved in the movie at all. And so much of Maka Monroe's character was just staring out into the nothingness to the point where I got bored.
I was incredibly bored. I will agree that the setup was good in the first act because you're like you just don't know what's gonna happen, and the concept of being followed was creepy. The initial shot that they give of the first time she sees it, when you kind of have that eagle's eye view of just it slowly walking towards the building that they're in, and he's just kind of panicking. Which again, it was kind of weird that he had her tied up to basically explain, "Hey, you can't die, but I'm going to leave you tied up." That kind of pissed me off a little bit. I'm like, you could have done this
That
very
doesn't help
differently.
anybody. Well, yeah,
No,
because also if it kills you, then or kills her, then it just comes right to
yeah.
you. So, what was
So
the point of
it
having her
was a
here in the first
very
place? Then,
very silly setup to say, "Hey," and like, he let it get so close to her, and then he started dragging her away in the chair tied up. I'm like, this was really not the best thought out plan. But
no,
that aside, that whole scene was tense and creepy. I enjoyed that. But then the whole second act of just basically being this awkward love triangle of the two guys basically wanting to get with her to take it away from her. It was just
I
a weird
yeah,
premise. I
I
didn't
didn't
care
fuck
for
with
it.
that at all.
The character None of the characters had any depth to them that you actually wanted to care about them or even give two shits about them. And you have the kind of the nerdy, dorky, long time friend of her that when they have sex in the hospital, it was just so weird how they had that whole scene set up. And yeah, it's I don't know. The creatures had a couple little jump scares. The only scene with the it really hit was on the beach. That was the one scene that saved this movie for me because I really enjoyed the fact that they were just in this open environment. They could have seen it coming, or she could have seen it coming, just wasn't paying attention, let her guard down, and then just all shit goes loose. And then she fucking abandons them. That was the part.
Yeah, I
I
didn't
was
like
just
that
like,
at
what?
all.
It
I
was just
was
such a
like
silly sequence. Like
that.
it had me laughing. It had me tensed up. Like when they were locked in the barn, and then all of a sudden, just her just driving away, completely abandoning her friends who had basically given up their lives to try and watch her and protect her from this invisible thing they can't see.
Yeah,
So, but that was
I
probably the
thought
most
that.
part of the movie.
I also thought that the final scene in the pool, or not the final scene, but the conclusion in the pool was just that was boring.
It was
I didn't
idiotic.
care. I don't
They
even
had
know if
it.
I'd go that far, but kind of, because he's just shooting at the fucking pool,
I actually laughed
basically
out
shooting
loud.
at her.
I laughed out loud when he tried to aim at the monster, just shot right through it, not realizing he was aiming at one of his friends. Shoots his friend in the fucking leg. It was such a chaotic scene of just kids not knowing what the hell to do. But I couldn't help but laugh in that scene.
By the way, do you know that there's a sequel coming out to this?
I, I'm not surprised with how. Again, there's another part of this movie I hated was the ending, the ending scene of just them holding
There
hands
might be.
walking down the street with just it following them.
But
I was
it's
like, all right,
also so stupid that they'd be like, it's like, yeah, so we have it together.
yeah,
Okay, cool. So now both of you can't tell the difference between regular ass people. Like, hey, can you see that person? Was kind of the whole thing where you
yeah.
can tell if that was it or not. But now both of you see it. So you have no advantage whatsoever from you're just gonna end up like killing some random person, going to jail for
They're
murder, and then it's gonna come and get you there.
here's my theory for this. They're going to turn these two characters into a younger adult version of um God, I'm blanking on her name from Halloween. Um, Jesus, why can't I think of her damn name?
Laurie Strode.
Thank you, Laurie Strode, where she's basically locked herself
I
away in a cabin, isolated from society because she's just afraid of Michael. That and what they
Micah
did with.
Monroe is nowhere near the level of charisma that Jamie Lee Curtis has, so
I'm
I
not
would
saying
not
she's the
recommend
same
that.
goddamn person. I'm saying
Oh,
the
I know.
similar survival aspect of just isolate from society. There are gonna be these crazy people that come. Basically, it's gonna be one of those like, hey, chain reactions, like Final Destination, where they try and figure out, hey, who had the STD first, and they go up the chain and they find the original person. It's gonna be something stupid like that, and I don't want them to make this movie. But they're
Yeah,
gonna.
well,
It's gonna
it's
be a
in
cash grab. That's
production.
all it's gonna be.
It's it's they principal photography was earlier this year, so it's
I'm
coming,
sorry.
and I think it's coming like next year. So
Just because you have a low budget film that makes a lot of money doesn't mean it needs a sequel because that's just going to be a slightly higher budget for a slightly higher return, and it's going to be a terrible movie.
I'm yawning just thinking about this movie. I'm gonna be
I
honest
know.
with you, Tommy.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm gonna give it. I'm giving it a C 46.45, and I think a lot of that goes to again the opening of this movie and I don't know some shots in it. I could go lower, but I do recognize that there
I,
is some skill involved.
I gave it just to go on theme with the sex of the movie. We're gonna go with D 69%. It was just it was
Damn.
bad. I could not. I will not watch this movie ever again. It was just boring.
Oh no, I won't either.
It was
This
not
isn't.
scary at all. Like
This isn't
the
one that
trailer makes it seem like a horrifying movie, and it had no jump scares whatsoever.
I don't think it really had any scares. Period.
They had a couple attempts, like when they were in the house, and the super tall version of it just comes like through the door.
Yeah, that was probably
It-
my favorite.
yeah, you had a couple attempted jump scares, but they just weren't. You were expecting them, so it wasn't that scary.
All right, let's conclude this thing with Mama. Um, this was the last 2010s one that I picked, and I feel like I picked the wrong one because there were a few different ones. I was like, all right, maybe I'll go You're Next, maybe I'll go Don't Breathe, maybe I'll go Lights Out. Maybe I'll go with another bad one and go with like Ouija or something. But I went with Mama, and this was directed by Andy Muschietti, who did the It movies.
Yep.
So good. Did The Flash, which I don't think The Flash is as bad as a lot of people say that it is. It's not
No, it was
good
an okay movie.
necessarily. Yeah, it's fine. Um, this stars Jessica Chastain and Nikolai Coster-Waldau, or Jamie Lannister,
Yep.
in Game of Thrones. And this came out January 18th, 2013, where all the great movies come out in January. Um, $15 million budget, $148 million at the box office. This thing did really
Wow.
well. I remember the trailers really got people's attention, and also this movie was, Andy Muschietti. This was like his first North American, big release. It was based on one of his Argentinian short films by the same name, but it was really sold as like presented by Guillermo del Toro, because Guillermo del Toro, I guess, he's not a producer on it. He didn't help write the movie. I don't know if he just kind of like executive produced it, or just kind of said, "Hey, I'll throw a little bit of money at this," or just
He was an
put my name
executive.
on it to help.
He was an executive producer for the film.
Because he's also the first name that you see on the credit, on the
Yes,
like opening credits,
you can definitely tell
which
that
is interesting.
this was just a cheap grab to say, hey, this really great director was attached to this movie. You should come watch it.
But it's almost like a, hey, guess who the maybe the new Guillermo del Toro might be. And things didn't really work out quite that way for Muschietti. And I remember seeing this movie a few months after it came out. I got it at like Redbox or something, and I thought, that was okay. It was fine. Nothing crazy, but also I liked the way that it concluded. And as someone that just watched this movie recently, I'm a little lower on it than I was at the time. Um, Actually, I'm a decent bit lower on it than I was.
Okay.
Um, this is, and we've talked about a lot of movies that are operating in the same hour 30, hour 40 range. This one definitely felt like, even more than It Follows, which is shocking to me. This one felt like the longest movie that we watched this week to me. Um,
Yeah.
I felt like it peaked in the beginning, and I thought the most interesting parts of this movie were the parts where it was like trying to integrate these kids into regular society, and get them out from the standpoint of like living in the woods eating cherries and shit, because it follows these two young girls. They're abandoned in the forest after their dad loses his shit, um after, I guess, just losing a ton of money. um
Yeah, it
Kills
was a
his
very,
wife.
very odd start to a movie.
I liked the way that it started out. I thought that it put you, it didn't over explain things, it just put you right in it, and you didn't know a whole hell of a lot, which I think helped put you in into
Chaotic type situation.
the shoes of the kids, because in
Yeah.
that situation you wouldn't know the specifics of everything that were going on. You would just be very frightened. And then this like entity named Mama kills their dad before he's about to kill them, and is taking care of them for 5 years basically. And then they're found, and their uncle and his girlfriend are now their caretakers. And it follows Jessica Chastain, who's basically in a unwilling, unwanted mother role, but she kind of has to come to terms with it and learn to love these kids, one of the kids is coming along quicker than the other one. And I liked that element of the movie with Jessica Chastain and the
Honestly, that
kids
that was the saving
and
grace of the movie for me was her character growth throughout the entire film. You have her start the film with it was almost very similar to Evil Dead Rise, where you have this aunt character who had a pregnancy scare, didn't want to have kids. Now she has these kids forced upon her. Then she becomes really
but
loving and realizes, oh, I can
she
do this.
wasn't a total asshole. Jessica
No, no,
Chastain was an ass.
yeah.
Like she could tell,
I'm
like, even as
thinking,
an aunt, when she would come over and see the kids, she was good to the kids. She was a
yeah,
good aunt. She just wasn't ready to be a mom yet. And by
yeah.
the end of Evil Dead Rise, it's like, hell yeah, I'm ready for this shit. This, I just felt like you went from shitty to all right.
Slightly less shitty.
I wouldn't even say that. I'd say there's a little bit more growth in that. But um I think also, and I remember feeling like this in 2013 as well, the character design for Mama I thought was fucking horrible. I thought
Yeah.
that a lot of this movie, because I try to, like, when I'm watching movies that aren't right now, I try to keep in mind, like, all right, visual effects, where were they at the time? Compare it to that, not to what you're watching now.
Very, very
Uh,
low
this looked
behind the
this
bar
looked
for that time.
this looked bad for 2013, and it's a movie where, I mean, the movie's fucking named Mama. And if Mama looks like shit and you don't buy anything going on with Mama at any point during the movie, that's kind of a detriment to your film.
Yeah.
It takes away some of the scare factor. And there was a little bit with that, where that and just the, scene to scene character dialogue. You got the random lady at the I don't even remember, the one that I call her the exposition machine. Um the lady at the, not the like morgue, or the psychiatrist, but the one that just had all the files. It was like, oh, this is where
Oh,
we keep all of the, like,
she was like a
like human
receptionist.
remains and shit. Yeah, I felt like this movie had so many characters that had no idea what to do with. They do some weird shit with, like, the other aunt that's trying to take
Yeah,
custody of the
had
kids.
no reason for that character to be in the movie.
And they had no reason for the conclusion for that character to be like that. I didn't really like the way that things concluded with Jamie Lannister's character either. And the way that things conclude here, um, they were really fucking ready to just be like, you know what? Fuck that younger girl. We don't want her. Mama, take her, kill her ass. Like they just they just fucking let her go.
Yeah,
Like,
it
they're
it
like,
was just
Lily, there's no
so
hope for
strange.
you.
No, there was no hope, and it kind of plays into the whole parenting aspect. It's like Lily was starting to warm up to the aunt, but because she was such a young age, I mean, her true parent in her eyes was Mama, and she wasn't ready to let that one go. And I knew it was coming, like the whole fake, the baby remains. I was like, this is too easy of an ending. Something weird's gonna happen. And Lily opens her damn mouth and goes, "Mama." I'm like, you motherfucker, and just triggers Mama, and she just starts going on her attack spree. I'm assuming she killed Jamie Lannister. Like, I'm assuming he's dead based on what she did to him. But they didn't really give a solid conclusion as to what happened to his character, I don't think. Unless I'm just completely forgetting a scene. But, like, she squeezes his heart pretty much, right? And makes him have heart failure or something. I don't really know what happened there, but
I don't know,
I'm
man.
assuming he's
Her
dead.
her abilities were just kind of whatever the plot needs them to be. They weren't ever really consistent at all.
Yeah. It just didn't hold up to me. There was a couple creepy moments, like with Jessica Chastain in the house, like when she's doing laundry up in the bedroom, and Mom was like on the floor, and she thinks it's one of the kids, and then realizes, oh, it's not actually one of the kids, and it's hiding in the closet. Like, you have that scene that was kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, there really wasn't much to it. You have like this weird Scooby Doo investigative side quest that the therapist is doing, and also Jamie Lannister's also doing at the same time.
And
And they
he
both
just completely just it felt like he was in the movie and then peace out, you're not in the movie anymore. In a way that
it
felt
was so strange.
very just yeah.
It was very strange to me with how communicative he was with Jessica Chastain throughout the entire first half of the movie with everything. And then all of a sudden it's like you come across this really dark, sketchy shit. You're gonna basically check yourself out of the hospital, go on this little side quest without calling saying, hey, there's something creepy going on that I think you should probably know about with the kids. But I'm just not gonna tell you. We're just gonna magically come to that conclusion together.
Just horror movie cliche right there.
Yes, of course.
Um
And like the doctor
yeah,
going there in the middle of the fucking night. Like, yes, that is the best time
yeah.
to go to an abandoned cabin that's supposedly haunted by some demon in the middle of the woods. That is the right time to do this.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and again, yeah, don't tell anyone where you're going. Uh I don't really have too much more to offer about this thing. I feel like this movie didn't give me too much, so I'm not going to give too much to it. I gave it a C minus 9.60, and I think that's a generous score.
I was a C minus as well, 15.
Okay, so very similar.
Right. Yeah.
It follows. You hated that movie. I didn't hate that movie, although
No.
I very much understand
The
why one
Mama at
might
least
hate that
had
movie.
a storyline that was able to be followed. There was at least an attempt to do some backstory, like on the whole, why Mama killed herself and that whole little backstory that they give. There was at least some explanation. It
Hmm.
follows with basically you know, hey, don't have sex if you have an STD because you're just going to give it to somebody else. that's all the
Well,
movie was. It was
you're
such a terrible
you're not
movie.
wrong. You're not wrong. All right. Well, that wraps up the third week of the 31 Nights of Horror. Next week we will talk about we've got a few
We
comedies
have a
in
good
there.
lineup
We've
next
got
week.
I'm excited for it. I think it's a lovely mix. We've got more horror comedies in the vein of Zombieland, Shaun of the Dead, and I'll throw Cabin in the Woods in
Yeah,
that mix
that's
as
considered a
well.
horror comedy.
Um, you've got a a foreign zombie movie. I think it's a zombie movie. I still need to.
Yes.
This is like the next one that I'm watching. That being Train to Busan.
Okay.
Heard nothing but fantastic things about it. I can't wait to watch
It
it.
is incredible.
Um, and then you've got two of the end of the decade like movies that everyone just glazes so much. That being Hereditary, which I think is the highest regarded horror movie apart from maybe Get Out of the 2010s.
Yeah.
And you have The Lighthouse, which some people might not even consider it a horror movie, but it's some people's favorite movie of 2019, which 2019 was a loaded year. So that is saying quite a lot. I can't wait to watch all of those movies. Train to Busan being the only one of those that I hadn't seen previously. So
Okay.
that's definitely the one I'm looking forward to the most because that's one that when it came out, I heard nothing about it, but years after the fact, it feels like something that people discovered over time.
Yeah.
And it's been built up more and more each year to the point where I've been putting off watching it basically until it made it onto one of our lists. And now it's here. So can't wait to watch it. Can't wait to talk about it. Tune in next week where we talk about that stuff. And then, yeah, week 5, some older sequels, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Really looking forward to episode 4, Tommy.
All right.
All right. See you then.